Hello, hello, Pete's Packs back with, well, today we're doing the commander decks from Midnight Hunt, or at least one of them. Now, I did pre-order these with Midnight Hunt. I have no idea what's in them, because I haven't opened them before. But hopefully, they'll be good. Alright. So there's two different ones? Yeah, it looks like it's just two different ones. So it looks like we have Wilhet the Rot Cleaver and Lenore Autumn Sovereign. Lenore having the deck Coven Counters, which is green-white. Wilhet the Rot Cleaver having Undead Unleashed, which is blue-black. Each of these comes with 2 legendary foils. So we'll get started with Coven Counters. Switch over to our dock cam. All right. As with several of the more recent commander decks, it is a fully cardboard packaging, or it has fully cardboard packaging, so you can recycle the grand majority of the packaging. And it has these tokens, also known as victory confetti, or at least that's what they say. Don't really make a habit of throwing things in the air, but, you know, we've got a deck box with some cool pumpkins on it. Now, these deck boxes tend to not hold up well over time, but it is what it is. Then what appears to be werewolf life dial with 1 to 20 on one side, and then I presume, 21 to 40 on the other. So pretty standard fare at this point. Okay. Then we have an insert with a much bigger version of the deck box art. Very cool. Love the pumpkins. Coven Counters, which is, of course, the deck name. And on the back, it has profile of Lenore, Autumn Sovereign. Excuse me. Man, my allergies have been killing me the last few days. We have some unseasonably warm weather, and everything has decided to be in bloom all at once. So it's like I am breathing soup. Hopefully I can keep the coughing and sneezing to a minimum, even with, antihistamines. There's only so far that they can go. So, in the front we have Lenore, Autumn Sovereign. Let's see where this goes. There's a little rip tab on the back. Unfortunately, this one is not fully cut, so it's a little off. It's fine. As with most versions of these, there is a cardboard standee version that's much thicker than a normal card, delineating the tokens. Looks like we get some good tokens in here. Oh, an Eldrazi spawn. And then a turn order reminder. On the back end, there's human soldiers, some spiders, more wolves, and some spirits. Very cool. I like double-sided tokens generally. They have additional utility as being double-sided. So, starting things off, we have Lenore. That's the ability Coven. Beginning of your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on up to one target creature you control. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, draw a card. Oh, that's pretty powerful. One of the alternate legendaries is Kyler, Sigardan Emissary. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on him. Other humans you control get +1/+1 for each counter on him. Oh, that's not just the +1/+1 counters. That's each counter, period. So you can actually put other kinds of counters to power him up. We have Dawnheart Wardens, which is, of course, core cards from the set. Moon Silver Key, same. Ten Falconeer. Eniok Bondkin, from originally from the Hans of Tarkir block. I believe it was Fate Reforged. Not 100% on that. Elite Scale Guard, also from the same block. Orzhov Advocist. Return to Dust, originally from Time Spiral. Yeah, Time Spiral, which is very strong. So you can exile either 1 artifact or enchantment, or 2 if you do it during your main phase. All Swords to Plowshares. This one with the Sam Wolf Connolly art. Little Avacyn's Pilgrim. Good old Mana Dork. Beast Within. Fantastic removal card that is outside of Color Pie. Bestial Menace. Oh, make all the tokens, basically. Biogenic Upgrade. So it lets you scatter counters around and then double them. Very strong with Kyler. Eternal Witness with the second art. I believe this is the Double Masters art. Not 100% sure. But Ewit, always good. Growth Spasm. She creates Eldrazi, so it's a kind of a double ramp. You get the, colorless mana. Off of the Eldrazi spawn, and you get to ramp a land. So kind of a double ramp. Inspiring Call. Both a protection spell and a draw spell. Yavimaya Elder. A good old double ramp that can replace itself. Enduring Scale Lord. So kind of a split hardened scales. Juniper Order Ranger, which grows in addition to other things growing with +1/+1 counters. More creature token creation. The core Arcane Signet and Soul Ring. Staples at this point within Commander. Swiftfoot Boots, Talisman of Unity. Okay. Blighted Woodland, another double ramp. So it replaces itself and gets you another land. Command Tower, I think we all know what that does at this point. Crimson Verge, another double ramp. Myriad Landscape, yet another. So it's a good way to pick up some core or some staple commander cards. Path of Ancestry, Celestial Judgment. Semi-board wipe. That lets you probably keep most of your stuff. Curse of Conformity. Oh wow, that's almost a one-sided humility. Not quite though. Moorland Rescuer. Wow. Oh, total power X or less. Okay, that's less crazy than I thought it was, but it's still very strong. Reanimator that, if you can make copies of it, is extremely strong. Let's see. Wow. Way to flash in a bunch of double strike. It's Sigarda's Vanguard. Oh, oh man, I might not go to Magic tonight because I am feeling miserable from these allergies. Stalwart Pathlighter, another Coven creature. Spreads around indestructible. Wow. On combat during your turn. Wall of Mourning. And for each opponent you have. Huh. Okay, so kind of card advantage. Of course, the classic issue with white card advantage, which is it's unusually restrictive. Celebrate the Harvest. Search your library for up to X basic lands, where X is the number of different powers among creatures you control. Put those cards in. Wow. That can be a huge ramp, especially with all of the different powers that get scattered around. Curse of Clinging Webs, although it does seem a little win more. Because if you have more than 3 creatures, which is, well, you want to have at least 2 for this to have the rate of like Ranger's Path or something along those lines. So for it to be better than that, you need to have at least 3 different creatures or 3 creatures with different powers. And beyond that, it's fantastic. But at 3, that's when you're getting a better rate. So it seems kind of a win more, because if you've got 3 creatures already in play, do you really need more lands? Unless it's more for like thinning the deck. And you have to run quite a few basics for that to be worthwhile. Curse of Clinging Webs. Whenever a non-token creature enchanted player controls dies, exile it and you get a creature token with reach. Okay, so this is, in a way, this is kind of a way to hose sacrifice while giving yourself quite a few creatures, hopefully. Especially if you're going to wipe the board. Then we have Heronblade Elite. Let's see, Vigilance. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it at X mana of any one. Wow. Okay, so huge mana ramp there, especially with Kyler. Curvis, Harvest Celebrant. Enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the mana spent to cast it, so it'll almost always be at least a 2/2. And you can remove a counter to prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn to another target creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay. So a little bit of a combat trick there. Ruinous Intrusion. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Put X/1/1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the mana value of the permanent exiled this way. Okay, that could be a huge swing. Sigardan Zealot. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose any number of creatures with different powers. Each of them gets +X/+X and gains vigilance until end of turn, where X is Sigardan Zealot's power. Okay. That's a very strong enabler. Although it does cost 5. Sumberwald Beastmaster. So create all the tokens, basically, and give your tokens Death Touch. Okay, that's cool. Angel of Glory's Rise. When it enters the battlefield, exile all zombies, then return all human creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. This was from the original Avacyn's Hope, I think. Is that the right name of the set? Yeah, you've got Innistrad, Dark Ascension, and then Avacyn's Hope, I think. Or Avacyn's Return. This is from Avacyn's Return, not Avacyn's Hope. Yeah. Bastion Protector. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. Okay, solid. For 3 mana on a 3/3, not bad. Citadel Siege. This is from the Khans of Tarkir block. Don't remember which one it's from. Probably Fate Reforged. It's always pretty solid. So you could tap down creatures during combat on your opponent's turns, or you could put counters on your stuff. Cleansing Nova, a decent sweeper for 5. That hits both artifacts and enchantments and creatures. You get to choose one or the other. Custody Soulbinders with X counters on it, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. Okay. That could be a lot. And you can remove counters to make spirit creatures. Okay, cool. Dearly Departed. As long as it's in your graveyard, each creature you control enters the battlefield. So, nice effect in the graveyard, and otherwise it's a overcosted 5/5 flyer. Herald War. When it attacks, put a counter on it. Angel spells and human spells you cast cost 1 less for each counter on it. Okay, so huge cost reducer, which explains why some of the cards in here are so overcosted. Very big. Hour of Reckoning, of course. This, I feel like this was in Ravnica block. I could be completely misremembering. It does have Convoke. So a good sweeper, since you're going to be making a lot of tokens, presumably. Knight of the White Orchid, White's classic catch-up card. Mikaeus, the Lunarch, okay. Classic way of spreading around a bunch of counters. Especially good if you have something where you can untap him repeatedly, so you can put a counter on him, untap him, remove a counter, put it on everything else you have. Really good with stuff like if you have this and a persist creature, I think persist. It's either persist or undying. No, persist. Definitely persist, because persist is the one that gives the -1/-1 counter. This plus intruder alarm and any persist creature goes infinite, or pretty close to infinite. You may need 2 persist creatures, now that I think about it. Plus a sack outlet, which, at that point you've got a lot of moving parts. Then we have Oderic, Master Tactician. This was from one of the core sets originally. And let's see. When in at least 3 other creatures attack, you choose which creatures block and how they block, which is really powerful. So almost like a provoke mechanic. I think that's right. Riders of Gavany. This was from believe Shadows over Innistrad. Either Innistrad or Shadows over Innistrad. Spread around protection, unbreakable formation. At this point, a staple in white creature strategies. So you can give your creatures vigilance and indestructible, plus spread around a bunch of +1/+1 counters, which is very powerful in this kind of strategy. Victory's Envoy. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, so basically a Luminarch Aspirant that hits everything. Champion of Lambolt. This was from Dark Ascension, I believe, originally. It was very difficult. It's very difficult to block. Because it makes, well, not just it's difficult to block, it makes your entire, all of your creatures very difficult to block. And lets you keep bulking it up, which is very strong. This used to be a staple of both green-white humans and multicolored humans, human strategies. I don't know why it doesn't really see as much play, but probably because it costs 3 and humans are trying to do, better things at 3 mana, like Reflector Mage or Mantis Riders. Let's see, Death's Presence. Whenever a creature you control dies, put X +1/+1 counters on creature you control, where X is the power of the creature that died. Very strong, especially with Sack Outlet, and can also be used with Persist. If you have 2 Persist creatures, you can keep looping them. Let's see, Gyre Sage, Evolve. Okay. Yeah, it keeps growing, and then you can make a bunch of mana. So very strong with what we already have. Kessig Cage Breakers, a classic make a bunch of things for all of your creatures. For all the creatures in your graveyard, this card was actually pretty problematic in Standard. Let's see, Shamanic Revelation. This is also from Fate Reforged, if I remember correctly. Which can be a huge life swing and draw you a ton of cards, although a little bit win more. Sumberwald Sage, really good mana ramp, mana dork for creatures. Verduous Gearhulk. This was from, pretty sure this was Kaladesh. Might have been Aether Revolt. Very, very strong card for passing around counters, and it's very efficiently costs for what it does. Wild Beastmaster. It attacks creatures you control get huge. That's basically what that says. Heron's Grace Champion. Well, this used to be really useful alongside the Bant Humans deck, or as part of the Bant Humans deck. I would run 2 of these during Shadows over Innistrad Standard with Collected Company. So it would normally be 2 of these and 4 Collected Companies, and that would be the entire top end of the deck. But very strong, and that it gives other humans you control +1/+1 and lifelink, so it can really blow out combat. Lifecrafter's Bestiary. When you cast a creature spell, you can pay to draw. Very strong in strategies such as this, and then the Scry is also very relevant, so you can shape your draws. You have Sigarda, Heron's Grace, good way of protecting your creatures and yourself, especially from burn strategies or any kind of targeted removal, targeted discard, things along those lines. And you can use it to clear your graveyard and build up an army, which is pretty nice. It often ends up being a win condition on its own. Canopy Vista, right? So fetchable duel. Also one of the Tango lands. see, Exotic Orchard, pretty much a staple index at this point. Fortified Village, one of the sort of fast lands. Sungrass Prairie, one of the filter lands. This one actually has a very slight misprint, in that the black layer is shifted. Temple of Plenty, of course, the green-white temple. Rogue's Passage, Way of Punching Through, Celestia Sanctuary, which is also slightly misprinted with the black layer skewed. Bounce Land, always need it. Temple of the False God, this recently saw a promo for the 30th anniversary edition. So I think Temple of the False God has started to fall out of favor the last few years. As your 5th land, it can ramp you, but from what I understand, it doesn't really serve the need anymore. And then some matching forests, which always nice. And some matching plains. These will get pulled aside to go in my draft packs. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's a good number. Probably 12 forests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, 12 forests. So hey, we've got some matching plains and forests for drafting purposes, which is always nice. Or sealed in general, not just draft. But overall, a good start to a green-white token strategy. I could see taking this a few different directions. Leaning into the token or into the counter strategy some more. You could add things like doubling season or similar doublers, none of which are coming to mind right now. I know there's the one out of Amonkhet or Our Devastation, one of those. I'd probably add in a little bit more targeted removal, swap out a few things for just more efficient versions of them. But overall, a good start to a token strategy, especially with additional counters. So not a bad pickup. I know probably like 2 years late on this recommendation, but I get to it when I get to it. In the next video, we'll be going over the other commander deck from this set, which is the Undead Unleashed with Willhet the Rock Cleaver. And yeah, as always, stay awesome. Or as always, thank you for joining me on this adventure. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. And until next time, stay awesome, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.